When it comes to workforce data, March was a very busy month. There was a ton of headlines, but don't worry, we have the data to cut through the noise. I'm Trent Cotton, head of talent insights here at iCIMS, and I'm ready to break down April's workforce report. All right, before we get into the April workforce report, I do want to set a little bit of a baseline as to where we get our information. So, what we do is we take the 691 million plus candidate profiles and over 5.1 million hires, all of that information. We look at it monthly and we turn around and give it out as a free report. 20 years in TA, I always was looking for some type of benchmark that I could measure my KPIs against what was going on in my peer group. Never really had it. Wish I would have had a report like this. So if you have an opportunity, go ahead and download this month's free workforce report. We'll drop a link in the description. So with that, let's dig in. All right, first up, let's talk about the US market and let's look at our three-line report. So every month we track the openings, the hires, as well as application and look at it over a 12-month rolling cycle. In January, we saw a little bit of a spike, which is normal, somewhat seasonal. And unfortunately, though, whenever I look at 24 going into 25 and then 25 going into 26, although the January spike was seasonal, it was still a little bit softer than what we saw coming out of 24 into 25. So I was really interested to see in March what happened. Well, very surprised. First thing, openings are up 14%. And that's a pretty large jump if you look at the average over the last 12 months. And unfortunately, hires is not keeping up. It only increased 3% year over year. So there's a huge gap in the number of openings that are coming versus the speed at which you can actually get hired. And what's even more concerning is that application volume is down 6% year over year. So this is creating a little bit of a trifecta for a lot of recruiting groups who are already struggling because they are usually half the staff of what they were 2 or 3 years ago, but they're now being expected to do a lot more work with less candidate volume. We also looked at what was going on with the applicant per opening and the time to fill. And we like to look at this together. Reason I like to have that view is because I want to see as the application volume goes up, does it affect the time to fill? We haven't really seen that over the last 12 months. It's if you look at the application volume, it's remained steady in and around the 32 mark. And time to fill actually swelled in December and peaked out in January, coming in at 43 days. We did see that drop to 38. So it does mean that we are trying at least to convert hires faster. But if I look at the data on the three line, I wonder how long this trend will survive. All right, so now let's look at EMEA, and it's a very different story. Everything was below what it was 12 months ago. So openings are down 3%, hires is down 10%, and application volume is down 11%. And if we look at the month over month growth, again, in January, there was a little bit of a spike, but it did not sustain over the last 2 months. So this is a huge opportunity for the EMEA teams in recruiting to really look at how can we remove some of these bottlenecks because the application volume is not what it used to be. So this is also a good time if you have a CRM or the ISIM CXM, you can actually go back and try to find some of those silver and bronze medalist candidates and try to bring them back to the surface for those remaining open roles. Now, if we look at what's going on with the applicant per opening as well as the time to fill, it's a little bit more variable than we're seeing in the US. It's been hovering in and around kind of that 44 mark on applicants per opening, which is pretty high. And time to fill peaked in January at 55 days, followed by only shaving 1 day off in February. But it did drop down to 48, which is in line with where it was for the bulk of the year. So there's a lot of variation, a lot of uncertainty that it looks like just looking at the data, what's going on in the workforce. And one of my favorite parts about the workforce report is that every month we look at a different sector, we look at a different topic that is affecting recruiting. This month, we're actually giving you a preview to our anchor report that we're dropping on April the 30th in partnership with Aptitude Research. We're calling it the definitive guide to AI adoption in TA. We're going to cut through all of the noise and look at what is the data telling us about how TA organizations are leveraging AI in their shop. Now, just some headlines is that 69% of those that were surveyed said that they're using AI at some point in their recruiting process. 50% of them said that efficiency is still the leading reason why they are considering automation or AI. Now, I'm not going to share everything, but I will tell you go and download your free copy of the April Workforce Report and mark your calendars for April the 30th to get the full definitive guide to AI adoption in talent acquisition. Well, that is the update for April. I am Trent Cotton, head of talent insights here at iCIMS. And remember, our data helps you create the most successful talent strategy.